We're pretty
Yeah,
much live.
we're
I
live.
think we're live. Hold on. Oh, oh, oh.
It's Saturday night. No,
Yeah.
just kidding.
All right. So yeah, I definitely live now.
I'm glad we're live now. It's like I'm so glad we're not dead now.
I know. Let's
Which
talk a little bit about that surgery, right? How'd it go?
yeah, look. Well, I don't know if anybody can see my neck, but anyway, it went really good. About 4 weeks ago, or three, it's been 3 weeks since surgery, but there was a week before that. If you were here with us, we were talking about uh, when something comes up, because with Scott, his company every once in a while gets something that they want to do something on Saturday and it's Wednesday, and he has to figure out who he can get for that event, because a lot of times they will, like with weddings, like he's got, would sometimes book out a month, 2 months, 6 months, 8 months. But when there are only 2 or 3 days, there's a lot to be done in those 3 days. And but Scott knows what to do and his staff knows what to do, so they can get that done in a quick period. But what I had is a dilemma. I wasn't ready in it, but he said, just like us, we can you get ready, Tharpo? I mean, it was like because it does put pressure on you, because I had to get all these things done. I had to give blood. I had to get, uh, all these shock things and all this other stuff. And you had to get prepared to do this, or because they had to know your blood type in case you were bleeding out or whatever. So we got it all done, and we did it, on the time, which was less than a week from when I found out I was going to have it and when I did. But we did it. But that's the deadlines. And I was saying just a few minutes ago about procrastinating on things in your life, but Scott's not a procrastinator. He just a bull goes forward and gets things done. But when you procrastinate, you look the other way. A lot of times you lose the opportunity you had. You know, they say fire, fire, shoot, aim.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then aim, fire, shoot. The people, a lot of the companies who try to make it perfect before they set out a product, some other company will put out that project before. It's not perfect, but they have it and they get the patent for it. And then the other person doesn't. And because pretty much anything in life, you're not going to have perfect. And if you're going to look for perfection before you get it done, it's not going to happen. So sometimes it's better to shoot and then figure it out on the way. There's a whole books on this.
Yeah,
Whole
how do you become perfect? By taking imperfect action.
right.
So so keep falling and well, Tony Robbins, what is it? Fail forward. So every time
Yeah.
something doesn't work out, at least you learn from that and you're able to move forward. And yeah, if you don't get something out, someone else could beat you to it, right? So I was just thinking about Tharpo the other day, and basically, he had to make this surgery happen, and he had, instead of a month to prepare, he had about a week to prepare. And it's kind of like, well, would you want to get that over with as soon as possible, or what else happens, if you couldn't get that done? So basically, get in there, get it taken care of, and then what? Now we're 3 weeks in, and you're already healing. So back when you got the phone call, it was like, I don't know if I can make this happen or not. And then he made it happen, and now we're in healing stages. So way to go.
Not only in healing stages is not, because I was in threat stage, because it said if I fell off my stilts or if I had a car wreck, I could be paralyzed for life. Now, if I do that, it won't be paralyzed because they cut out the the part that was sticking into my spine. My, the so
So basically, as coaches, our job is to figure out the straightest line from where you are, current state, to desired state.
and
And
the steps to get there, uh, and also figuring out, is it what you really want? Of course, the surgery was what I really wanted because I wanted to heal. But on your journey, sometimes if you use some NLP, just some easy NLP on it, ask yourself, what would that do for me? Whatever you're looking for, and what would that do for me, and what would that do for me, and what would that do, and you keep doing that till you hit a spark in your brain that says, oh, that's it. and that's what the people in front of us too. They'll have an epiphany about like two or three in is why they really want it. It's like you'd ask, like Tony Robbins, they'd say, "I want more money," and he throws a quarter at you and said, "There's more money." He says, "Oh, well, I need more than that." He says, "Well, you need to be more specific. What is that money going to do for you? Because money is just currency; it doesn't do shit for you. But what that money can do for you does something for you. But what is that? What you want?"
So
Go ahead.
that is something. I had a phone call with somebody last week, and that's exactly what they were saying. And they said, I wanted more money for security. And sometimes it's like peeling an onion, right? Like to get somebody to that state of, well, if I did something that was more fulfilling, the money would come afterwards, and then it would be more enjoyable, the steps I was taking. And being of service to others is something a lot of people miss as well. I've had somebody call me and they're like, "Oh, I want to be remembered." Well, if you want to be remembered, well, what are you doing for other people to get them to the next stage? So back to the onion. Sometimes it may take a few sessions to really dig down deep, if especially if no one's ever asked you these types of questions before, because that's what we do as coaches. And it's not like, oh, so we say change can happen in an instant. It's just getting you to the point of realizing what the change needs to be for that to happen, right? So somebody, again, back to the, oh, I want money for security. Okay, well, what is that going to do for you? And what is that going to do for you? And what is that going to do for you? And what is that going to do? And then sometimes the loop is really small. And then after a few sessions, the loop gets a little bit bigger. It just depends if you've asked yourself the right questions or not. And this person, I like stopped. I was like, hey, look, this is a tiny loop. Close your eyes, breathe, ask your subconscious that knows everything about you what you really want. And then after a couple minutes or so, some simple hypnosis techniques, we came up with a house. And I was like, great. Now we have something to work for. And that was pretty rewarding for me to be able to help that person come up with that answer. Now there's probably a whole ton of more questions to ask, but I think we got first past the first layer of the onion.
And
All
then
right. So,
the
yeah.
next step to that, and when you get to where you want to go, then we help you figure out ways to get there. So what we do is next thing we do is a well-formed outcome. Basically, one, not the only thing we could do, but right there we could do so not only what do you want, how do you get it? Do you have the resources to do it on your own? And how will you know when you get this? And uh, and then the other thing is we help people set goals, small goals that they can reach. If you put a goal way in, you want some big goals that you're going towards, but we also want little goals that we can achieve because then we get the dopamine hits, we get the good feeling hits when we get something done, but we keep on going towards a thing. Now, even if you get that house, in about 6 months, it's going to come. It's not 100% win, but usually somebody becomes complacent and then they want something different or a bigger house or something like that, and that's okay. We can always want more, but that's what we call is besides the safety part is chasing, basically happiness. And what we want to do later on after that is find our meaning and purpose in life, and that's where you're going to find the most
Yeah,
happiness.
that's what I was going to say. I was going to say purpose. That's what keeps people
Purpose,
driving, having
right?
a reason. And then for me, helping out other people and seeing them realize and becoming more independent, it helps me fulfill my purpose because, somebody who's depressed or sad or doesn't understand what's going on, and then if you can open up the window or the door or panels or whatever for them, then more paths become available, and it's not so much like you're trapped. And being able to help other people grow is something that makes me feel pretty good. Now, with that, switching topics, I was talking about NLP and how it works as a wedding DJ, which I'm going to make a whole video just on my own. But I had one of my guys. He went out for the weekend, and as a wedding DJ, for those that are wedding DJs, you realize you don't have too much time to shine, right? Like, so if you do a ceremony, you're basically an audio tech, and then basically the first time you have to shine is doing the wedding bridal party reception introductions. Now with me, I make them pretty elaborate. Like I get people to listen to me, I get them to get louder, and like I have a whole routine schedule, and I give a command and then they listen. And it's not like I'm bossing somebody around. I'm just asking them to do something that makes sense. And then when I ask somebody to do something that makes sense, like how about a round of applause for the bride and groom? Like I gave them a command and then they listened to me. And that's how I build rapport with an entire audience of 50, 300 people. And from there, they come in, they do a first dance, and then you're back to dinner. So you have like this tiny little window to set the stage, and then if you set the stage properly, when it comes time to dance time, they'll be able to listen to you and follow your lead because you did a good job setting it up in the beginning. And when I was with my DJ for the weekend, I don't think he quite understand the scope of that. And it was like, well, when you go to a hypnosis session, somebody has to be in rapport with you in order for change to happen. So if you just go to step number 5 and you haven't cleared step number 1 yet, then they're not going to be on the same, like it's like the boat took off and they weren't in the boat, that kind of thing. And it applies to anybody who's on stage, or even Jeff. We want to talk a little bit about what it's like being a, well,
Well,
clown.
either, well, it, let's just go back to he's setting up the thing for later on. So when he goes in there and he teaches them how to, he gives them the steps like, well, we're going to do something here. And can you guys get louder over here? Can you get this? We're going to be doing that. He sets the precedent with when it comes to time when you need it later, he's already set up that. And I was telling him earlier about like when you're doing a show for little tiny kids, like 1, 2, 3 year olds. Now, 1 year olds aren't going to get anything, and their only thing they're afraid of mostly is loud noises and falling. Other than that, they learn everything else. Then the 2 year olds, the 1 year olds gonna mimic the 2 year olds, and the 3 year olds are gonna mimic the 4 year olds, and vice versa. But if you go in there and you go in with full energy as a clown, you'll blow the 1 and 2 year olds out of the water, and then you just kind of messed up your show for 10 or 15 minutes. You have to get them back online. But if you go in there easily and each one of them gradually get them all as a group against you, basically setting up the rules where they say, I'm up here, you're back there, I'm not going to come towards you, and you just stay there, and we're kind of basing this so they're getting their comfort level. Same way as you're going to be loud over here, you're going to be loud over here. Here's some things later on, and when the guest gets here, this is what we're going to do. And he's setting up that stage so they will have compliance later. Now, these kids, you got to make them where they're not afraid. So when like 15 minutes in, I'm going to throw a spring snake at them or a brick, but not a real brick, but a toy brick. And they're going to go, and they're going to scream. They're just going to scream. Now, if the 1, 2, and 3 year olds haven't, and they're around kids all day because it's a daycare kind of show there, and they're set up, but then they hear that loud noise, it's okay because they're a group. But if they were by themselves and they heard that loud noise or the brick coming at them, they'd just start crying. So you got to set up, and just the way he was setting up his, the theater basically, even like if, and I've got a theater degree too, so when you're on stage you're setting up how people, the audience is going to see it. You got to get them prepared, and usually there's going to be a how you set up it, it's how it's going to, anyway, I'm just
Hey,
going there.
one thing to keep in mind is that you start off small, right? And
Mhm.
then it becomes perpetual. As long as you're giving proper steps for them to follow and not breaking their identity. That's what I explained to somebody else when I was on a call with them. Like I asked a few questions like, what's your name? Are you ready to continue with this conversation? So these things are way to build rapport. You asked the question and they said yes. So the next thing is like if I would have said, why don't you jump up and down and take your shirt off? That would be against your identity, right? So you not
It
to say that you couldn't.
probably.
Yeah, most people will say, but it's a good safe spot. Like, what's your name? Can you hear me? That kind of thing. Not to say that you couldn't eventually. have enough fun with somebody that you could get them there. Like, but that's not, it also depends on what the goal is. So sometimes when you're doing a mobile event, there's a lot, I'm sure there's mobile DJs in here somewhere, and they've seen people where they'll take a group of people on one side and a group of people on the other side and get them to compete against each other. And it becomes wilder and wilder and wilder as you get them to compete. Now that becomes perpetual because you've gained rapport. So one person will come out and do something pretty outrageous, and then the next person feels they got to do something pretty outrageous. And once you have, you're given these commands, you basically, you basically can get them to do whatever you want. And that's how a stage hypnotist show works. It's not like he starts off by getting someone to take their shirt off and start singing. Yet it happens all the time. So you start off with something small, like, can you close your eyes? Can you put your hands out in front of you? On the right side, I have a heavy brick. On the left side, I have a balloon. And then by the end of the instructions, your hands have changed. And then whoever's more, what's that word? Somnambulous? Whoever's more
Yeah,
susceptible,
funambulism. But
whoever's more
basically,
susceptible.
yeah, they'll raise their hands more, and that's what who they're going to pick mostly. I want to throw something in right there. In all of this also for all entertainers is safety of the crowd. So when a stage hypnotist goes up there, he tells you what's going to happen, how he's going to do it, a sense, and he's saying these are the things you're not going to be able to do. You're not going to be able to hit anyone physically. You're not going to be able to get off the stage. You cannot go off the stage. You're going to be sitting in your chair, you know, so you're given the safety. Same way with me with little kids, you got to give them safety. In the same way with you're not going to with the DJ, they're not going to have people hitting each other with chairs and throwing them in the air and busting things. But you got to have that control too, because if you bring them, so in all of this, we're kind of setting up the stage. I would say that right there is we're setting up the audience to do what we need them to do later to have a good show and not get anybody hurt. I would say that's always and always for me, safety of my people who I'm entertaining for and everybody around because it's my area that we look for safety first and we want everybody to have a great time, but we also want the the dynamic that is it doesn't go too far, but we have it where it goes far enough. And like the other thing right here is when he's talking, you only have like the first 5-10 seconds to get a first impression.
Mm.
And the other thing about that too is they're going to remember you more if you keep it going, and you want that gig back. And you like he doesn't have so many times where he can shine, so you want them to know that you can handle that job for the next gig too. And the hypnotist wants the people to do some funny stuff, or he won't get another job. And the clown, if he's making all the people cry, he's not going to get his gig back. So all that said, the preparation for preparing the audience for what they're going to have.
So what you're doing is really talking to their subconscious. So I have so many people come up to me after an event and just tell me I did an amazing job, and they can't even pinpoint exactly what it was because maybe they weren't conscious of it. Yet the more conscious you are, and the more prepared you are, and the more your game plan is set, you'll just make it happen. It'll be a lot more like easier. So I was just explaining that to one of my guys, and then I think it set in. So there was another thing that we had a conversation about is that he'd go out there and say something like, "Hey guys, how about a round of applause? We're getting ready to get this party started." And it would be like a weak applause. And then normally, "Oh, that wasn't loud enough. You got to get louder." So what he was saying before you got louder was something along the lines of, "Oh, I know it's been a hot day and I know you guys are probably tired, but you came here to celebrate today." So I need you to get a little bit louder. So he told me he was going. He said the junk's position of being in a hot and tired, but yeah, we're gonna celebrate. So I advised him that from all the NLP and hypnosis practices that we have, is that you would want to focus towards the positive instead of the negative. And then he was like, "Oh, that makes more sense." Because what about later on in the day, if somebody wants to leave early? Well, the DJ said it was hot, and I'm tired, and they're thinking about all these things instead of, so we come out there and you say something like, "Hey guys, we're getting ready to celebrate tonight. Can you hear me?" And then you go into, well, that's okay, but I bet we could get just a little bit louder. I don't know where you've come from today, near, far, but we're here to celebrate tonight. And in order for them to come out, you're going to have to get just a little bit louder. So I'm focusing more on positive and celebrating. And you can even presupposition it. We're going to do a lot of partying tonight. Well, we got to start off with a bang, something like that. So you've already preset that we're partying tonight because we've came from all these different places, and this is our one opportunity to have that wonderful moment type thing. So instead of like, again, the opposite, which is, oh, I know it's hot out here. You probably need some water, but I'm gonna need you to pull it together for these guys. Like, what is that?
Well, let's go there. Let's go into that for a second. Okay, I've got a little speech for about 2 or 3 seconds here, because humans are tend to see the negative first because it's a protective kind of gear. But whatever we focus on, we'll find more of. So what you really want to do as an entertainer, bring the positive, so they'll see the positive and keep that going. Like Scott just said, if you focus on the negative, it might go right back to their head. It is miserable out here. He's right. Instead of that, don't even put that in their brain. You know, keep the positive going because they do have a choice to look at it anyway. If they choose, but you bring them down, don't do that. Keep them up. Keep them up because it is a celebration. And, so I totally agree is keep it positive and I mean, in everything in life. I was talking about that in another class I was doing today, where I am just so happy. I don't know if you guys can tell, my neck, there is a little scar there, but that's only 3 weeks out, and the stitches are almost gone, I guess. I guess they just evaporated. They're supposed to dispose of themselves, and I didn't know it was this good till a few minutes ago, but the point was at the beginning is that don't procrastinate on doing the things you need to do because getting it done and going to the next step. I was talking about somebody who had a breakup and somebody cheated on him. Would you rather know now or later? Let's get what we're doing and go towards a better life. I would say every day. In another class we were doing today was doing the best you every day. And this is way off, but just remember that be your best you every day. And then we don't have to live in regret. And you can go back to a lot of our stuff. We say this almost all the time about living your best life. But today, we're talking more like stage performances, any type of speech you give, and be it at your church, be it at your school, be it with your friends, be it at a professional gig in front of children.
You
Any,
wouldn't, as a stage hypnotist, go up there and say, "Everybody's gonna leave here in 5 minutes."
no, you would say everybody's going to have a good time,
Yeah.
and some of them were like, they'll just have a good time because you said to.
And then another thing, again with the presuppositions, what a stage hypnotist would do, they'd put up a bunch of chairs and say anybody that comes and sits in these chairs is going to have the most fulfilling life they could ever have, and everything that they ever wished for will come true because they're the ones that went forward with their ambitions. So that's how and then it's kind of like fighting people to get out of the chair. You know what I mean? Somebody could set up a chair and not be able to fill them all, but if you pr- uh, preset it to with those types of words, then they'll be fighting to get into the chair. Like who would be the first one to get up there? Because you know just proving that you could go on stage and be able to do all these things means that you'll be able to get whatever your goals are. And that pretty much holds true to somebody who, well, would be too shy to actually put themselves forward. They wouldn't be able to get the things that they want because they're not, in real life putting themselves forward for what their goals are. Yet someone who's more forward and doesn't mind what anybody thinks about them and just wants to get things done, And that's another thing too, when I took my hypnosis class, is that you wouldn't want to use it for evil. You would just use it to make sure that people got what they wanted, because that's reciprocity and it'll come back to you. So you wouldn't want to do anything evil when you had people following your instructions, because what good would that do? So just something to keep in mind when because DJs, they are performers, clowns are performers, even balloon artists. You wouldn't go up there and say, "You're gonna hate this balloon." You're gonna hate this balloon design, right? Or I'm horrible at face painting. Then why are you here? Go do something else then. But yeah, that's
Well,
all
I
I got.
guess what comes to mind when you say that, expectations. When you give them something to expect, they probably will. So you want to give them something positive, because when you give them something negative, they're gonna go that way too. So uh, especially on the negative or positive, in the pre-proposition, and we're all gonna have a great time, is better than you guys. I know you're gonna have a terrible time. It's so hot and muggy out here.
Yeah, I mean, like,
You should have stayed home. I don't know why you're
I
celebrating.
would have been like, well, the drinks are free. Let's go. But yeah, so guys, on my business front, I just had the app updated, so we're in the middle of testing it, and that's something I've been working on because it kind of slowed down, like like not slowed down, but the systems are just taking care of themselves right now. So I actually have downtime, and I put, I don't know, 20 things on my list every single day, and I do them all. And it's kind of like, well, what else can I work on? Well, the app is always been done. It just needed to be updated. So we just got a new update release today. And then I have a bunch of beta testers I'm going to send some emails to. And I'm kind of excited to get that thing rolling. 12 grand in on a project. You think I'd spend more time on it? Everything else is keeping me so busy that, I finally had time to focus on it. And I can't wait for it to take off. And I got that rolling, so that'll be cool. The update just got an email right before I did this call that the new update's up, and the beta testers will be getting an email soon. I actually have the wife cross-referencing all the things we asked the team to fix for us. So once we get an okay on that, my beta testers will be getting an email soon, which is kind of exciting. And I'll make a new video because the old video that I have on the YouTube right now, the looks of it have changed. So that's kind of exciting too.
Yay.
So projects going in many different directions. And if you guys want to learn how I built my business, I did 372K and last year, and it takes a lot. Well, my coach, Frank Kern, right? Like I went over there and talked to him, and he actually stopped accepting people, which I got into. I got into his coaching group, and he said it doesn't take anymore because the more people you get, the more you gotta, make them happy. And he's like, I can't take any more because I have so many different projects going on. So that's kind of where I'm at. I got a
Well,
lot.
with that said, if he would have procrastinated and not got in there with his coach, he wouldn't have got the chance to do it. So sometimes it's okay to take that jump, and because what Scott says several times in some of the other videos we've done, where he's looked at the worst case scenario, could he accept it? And he could. So find out what you could accept in life, and then go towards your goal. Because if you wait, it might be too late. So
So, let me break
so
down this coach in perspective for you. So this coach is one of the main guys for Go High Level, which is like the number one software that you would use if you wanted to be an online entrepreneur, or basically any business for marketing, right? He is the number one guy that they use to market their software. So I when I was first starting out, I had another coach, and I spent 8 grand for 6 months, and I had access to this coach's team to help me run Facebook ads. So I could go in and I could have the team run Facebook ads for me, and then I never got any sales from that team. So that was 8 grand for 6 months. So I'm in the inner circle of this other coach, Frank Kern, and it's $100 a month, and I have all the things that I was offered to when I was first starting out, and I have access to the entire team, and then they'll teach me how to work everything from the inside out for $100 a month versus 8 grand for 6 months. And I have way more service from Frank Kern, even though I'm still learning, because kinesthetics. I don't know if you watched any of our other videos, but kinesthetics have a certain way of operating, and because I'm auditory visual, I have to sometimes refocus, be like, "What are you saying?" Because sometimes you'll tune out. For me, somebody who's kinesthetic, they talk slower, so I'll get into a trance. And then I have to rewind everything. Or if I speed things up, there might be one spot that I missed, and that was like the spot that I needed to go back. So we're always learning and understand what personality type are you, and what personality types do you get along with the best. So again, because uh, I get along best with security driven people. Now, a little aspect about security driven people is that they don't take a lot of risks. Yeah, I'll be the one that takes the risk, and the security people are the ones that back me up. So I'm not quite sure how that would work if someone was prestige. I'm sure they would need somebody else that was money, probably money driven. If somebody was prestige driven, and then I don't know people that are kinesthetic. I don't know what they need. They probably need a different type, but I just know what works best for me. So
Well,
I'm
the
sure you.
kinesthetic people are going to need the feeling of they're doing something that's right, sort of like they're
Oh, I'm
feeling
saying what's their
that.
counterpart?
I'm sorry,
What's their counterpart?
I'm lost there.
Oh, so if a kinesthetic person like me, like I'm money driven, right?
Hmm?
So I get along best with security people. But if somebody was kinesthetic, who's a feeling person, who would they get along best with?
Well, probably the people who are going to make them feel better, give them the kudos they want, because they're getting that feeling.
Maybe a prestige
They're also
person.
that, or if they're see the kinesthetic wants to help people, not always, but they're getting the feeling of either. Well, again, you could have a prestige person because that's they feel important and
Yeah,
how does that
maybe.
make you feel? Basically, a lot of times with the kinesthetic, it's how do you feel? How do you feel about what you're doing? And then they're probably driven more with the feeling than they are with the money. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah. I I just know what
anyway,
works out best for me. That's what I found works out best for me.
uh, and we're all a work in progress always, so we can learn from pretty much anyone around us and also keep on improving on our own self. So today I was in a different event where I was talking to people about why did I heal so quick, I believe. One was because have the positive attitude, and also that I do work on, it's a work progress. It's a happiness with the in the belief that I'm going to heal, and I'm healing faster than most of people do. So, and I'm very grateful for that. But you could look at it a different way. Why woe's me? And but the whole, I think you can speak for this. I've been pretty positive throughout this whole process in the last month, haven't I?
Yeah.
So being positive and really having a good attitude helps you get where you're going to go. I mean, looking instead of focusing on what's bad, focusing on what's good. I've had some downtime. I got to sleep, and I did find that for a while I was needing to sleep a lot more because my body was healing. So I looked it up. But is this supposed to be happening? And supposedly, when you're healing from like a spinal fusion and stuff like that, your body needs more rest to heal properly. So I've been taking that account, and when I get so tired, I just listen to your body.
All right. Well, that's pretty much all the time I have for today. I got a few things I got to take care of, and good luck with everything.